Hey everyone, coming to you today from Iron Mountain City Park in Lake Oswego. If you clicked on this video, if you're gonna watch this video, you probably already know some of the pros and cons. You probably already know that there's way more pros than cons in Lake Oswego. Lake Oswego is one of the most desirable places to live in all of Oregon, not just the Portland metropolitan area. So I'm gonna try and briefly cover, maybe skip over some of the pros that you probably already know, and see if I can't find some that you might not know, some that you might not see from watching other videos like this or reading online. And as always, I like to save one for last that could be a pro or con. I'll let you decide. There's been quite a bit of controversy in Lake Oswego recently. There's an ongoing lawsuit. We'll talk about that at the end of this video. All that starts now. Hey everyone, Seth Marchant with the Home Team Brokers here, coming to you today from Iron Mountain City Park in Lake Oswego. If you're new to this channel, living in Oregon, and you'd like to know more about what it's like to live in Oregon, make sure and hit the subscribe button, tap the bell. That way you'll get notified every time we drop a new video, which is twice a week. And if you're somebody that's thinking about moving to Oregon as real estate brokers, as much as we like to make these videos, we'd love to help you move here. So if you're somebody that's thinking about taking the next steps, you can call us, text us, email us, or you can click the link below in the description to get into our calendars to schedule a Zoom call with us. Typically best for people coming from outside of the state. All right, pros and cons. As I'm shooting this, I just realized there is a con that I didn't quite think about. And if you can hear that, that is a con that you're gonna find in more affluent places like Lake Oswego, which is gas-powered leaf blowers. I'm not sure I know anybody that likes the noise of gas-powered leaf blowers just blasting off all day long. So I hope this doesn't, I hope this background noise doesn't pick up too much in this video, but that's definitely one thing that you'll kind of notice living in a more affluent area is you got those noisy gas-powered leaf blowers. Okay, let's go to some of the pros. Like I mentioned, real quick, let's skip over some of the ones that you already know, right? Schools, some of the best schools in the Portland metropolitan area. Sports are also very good as well. Most of Lake Oswego's sports programs are some of the best in the state. If you've got kids in sports, especially competitive sports. If your kids aren't super competitive, I don't know that some of these programs will be the best for them, but if they are, definitely Lake Oswego is gonna be at the top of your list for schools and sports. Next, we've got crime, one of the lowest crime areas in all of Oregon, not just the Portland metropolitan area. You probably already know that again, but I do want to mention that because it really wasn't a big deal, or it wasn't something that was high on the radar for people maybe a couple of years ago. But people that reach out to us now, they've seen a lot of things in the news about Portland, and crime and being in a place where they feel safe is usually something that people moving here ask about that maybe wasn't such a thing a couple years ago. Next pro is the downtown. You'll probably see this in some other videos, you probably read this online, but in my opinion, Lake Oswego's downtown is as good, if not better, than any of the other downtowns in the surrounding suburbs in the Portland metropolitan area. It's a really lively and active downtown, so there's always stuff going on there. It's high energy. They've got, in my opinion, one of the best farmers markets, which is right downtown in Millennium Plaza. They also do concerts in the summertime and a lot of other events there. So if you like to be in a downtown that's got a lot going on, that's got a lot of amenities, a lot of restaurants, for the Portland suburbs, Lake Oswego is about as good as it gets. You can definitely live in a lot of places in Lake Oswego and be walkable to the downtown and have access to shopping, restaurants, gym, yoga, all that stuff. It's not gonna be cheap, but there are a lot of places you can live that are super walkable to a great downtown in Lake Oswego. Huge pro in Lake Oswego, parks. There's as many parks here, if not more parks here than anywhere else in the Portland metropolitan area or any of the surrounding suburbs. I think there's about at least 30 parks here, including some very large parks, one of them being Tryon Creek State Park, 635 acres. The park that I'm in now, Iron Mountain City Park, was actually completed about 1.5 years ago, so it's a relatively new park. It's 50 acres. I'll show you a little bit more of that once I get towards the bottom of this trail. So one thing that you might not know from some of these other videos or some stuff that you might read online is that Lake Oswego is filled with trails just like the one that I'm on right now. In fact, a lot of them are paved. The one I'm on right now isn't paved, but you're gonna find as many trails kind of weaving through Lake Oswego as any other suburb in the entire Portland metropolitan area. So if you're somebody that's really active, you see a lot of people out here walking dogs every day, rain or shine. If you're that type of person that likes to be able to get outside of your house and maybe go walk somewhere other than just the sidewalks, maybe feel like you're in nature a little bit, which I guess you are, Lake Oswego is really tough to beat. There's literally hundreds of miles of trails that weave through Lake Oswego and outside of Lake Oswego if you want to take a longer walk, hike, or bike. Here's one you probably won't read about or find online, and this isn't going to be a reason to move to Lake Oswego, but it sure is nice if you live around this area. I've lived in Oregon my entire life, so I've seen a lot of changes over the years. And 20 years ago, there's a lot of places in the Portland metropolitan area that you can drive around and not experience congestion, with the exception of like rush hour times. Whereas now, there's a lot of places throughout the Portland metropolitan area, highways and interstates, that experience consistent congestion. You have bumper to bumper traffic regardless of what time of day it is. One highway where you don't have that in Portland is from Lake Oswego to Portland on Highway 43. You can drive from Lake Oswego to downtown Portland, usually regardless of what time of day it is. And there's gonna be a few lights, you know, it's not one of those highways where there's no lights, but it's a small highway, mostly 2-lane. But you can drive from Lake Oswego to downtown Portland without experiencing any bumper to bumper traffic, which I personally think is really nice, because you're just gonna run into so much more bumper to bumper traffic throughout Portland. So if you have to commute to work from Lake Oswego to Portland, that's one of the best commutes in all of Portland. Again, probably not a reason why somebody would move here, but when you live here and you start to experience some of the other traffic, it's really nice to have at least one highway where it's not consistent congestion. And for you people moving here, a lot of you are Californians, you're gonna have to get used to the drivers here. People don't drive the same way in Oregon as they do in California. Sorry to call out my fellow Oregonians so much and put you on blast, but Oregonians really don't have a concept of a passing lane. So that's something that you're gonna have to get used to when you come to Oregon. The people here consider a lane that's not a center lane or the right lane, whether you have a 2 lanes or 3 lanes, they consider the far left lane the fast lane. And the way that works is if somebody's going over the speed limit, it could be 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, it could be 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. There's a certain group of people that are just going to drive in the passing lane, fast lane they call it, regardless. In fact, you'll see sometimes people driving in the left lane when there's nobody in the center lane. You know, people are just like, I'm a left lane driver, I'm going over the speed limit, so I drive in the left lane. There's just simply no concept of a passing lane. All right, now here's another thing about Lake Oswego that you might not read online that's nice for most people. A lot of the suburbs in the Portland metropolitan area are bedroom communities, meaning there's not a lot of commercial stuff. They don't typically work where they live, you know, so you have to commute. Not necessarily the case in Lake Oswego. You've got Cruiseway that has a ton of commercial space, so there's a lot of jobs in Lake Oswego. You very well might be able to find the job that you want and live in Lake Oswego and not really have to have a commute. A lot of the jobs in Portland have close proximity to downtown Portland and the west side, Beaverton, Hillsboro. That's where the Silicon Forest is. That's sort of our little Silicon Valley, if you haven't heard that term before, Silicon Forest. But Lake Oswego actually has a fair amount of jobs, so there's a decent chance that you could work and live here, and that's really not going to be true for a lot of other communities that are surrounding Lake Oswego. West Lynn, for example. Most of the people that are living in West Lynn do not work in West Lynn. So if you're somebody that doesn't like a commute, especially if you don't like traffic and congestion, like I just mentioned, which there is a fair amount of in Portland, that's a great reason to get into Lake Oswego and possibly be able to find a job in Lake Oswego. All right, a couple quick cons, and then we'll let you decide. It's up to you. Is this one a pro or con? Like I said, we'll save that one for last. One little tiny con, you do have train tracks and a train that goes like right through downtown Lake Oswego and along the lake. I think it's probably not going to be a con for too many people, but some people might want to watch out for that. You do have trains all throughout the Portland metropolitan area. I can hear trains from my house. I can't hear the one in Lake Oswego. So I'm not really sure what it's like at nighttime or how often it runs at nighttime. In the daytime, you don't see it very often. And I think a lot of people that kind of live near by trains, especially at nighttime, it just becomes white noise and you don't even really realize the train's there. But if you're somebody that's sensitive to that type of thing, you might have to take that into consideration, that there is train tracks and a train that goes right through downtown Lake Oswego. All right, here's the biggest con. You probably already know what that is: cost. Houses here, real estate here are as expensive if not more expensive than anywhere else in all of Oregon, not just the Portland metropolitan area. So it is extremely expensive to live here. But with that being said, I do believe that just about anybody that wants to live here can live here. You can find homes in that medium price range, which for Portland is around the mid 500s or so right now as I'm shooting this. You can find homes in Lake Oswego, and in fact, actually, we do have a listing coming live today or tomorrow. Paul, the other gentleman from this channel, is heading that up, so he's a little bit more up to date with the details than I am, but we do have a listing coming in Lake Oswego in the next day or two that's in the 5s. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So if you got a kid or two, you got room for kids, and it's in a great area. There's no bad areas of Lake Oswego. So it's super expensive here, but I think that just about anybody, if you want to, can get into Lake Oswego. It's just that you're gonna get a lot less for your dollar, right? You're going to get an older home, you're gonna get less square footage, might not get some amenities that you want, like a bonus room or a fenced backyard, or you might be in a small lot. You know, you might have a place that needs a lot of maintenance. But if you wanna be here for the schools, the low crime, whatever it may be, I think it's really actually doable for just about any budget, as long as your budget is at least somewhere where kind of the average is for the Portland metropolitan area. All right, so for the last one, you decide, is it a pro, is it a con? That's gonna be kind of obvious. I mean, for the people that already had access, this is gonna be a con. For the people that now have access, this is gonna be a pro, whether it's residents of Lake Oswego or people from surrounding towns. And that is that a judge recently ruled that the lake in Lake Oswego is public and not private, and therefore the public should have access to it. And there is a place now on the lake where you can access the lake. Anybody can go there. Before, it was private, so you had to have lake access. Doesn't necessarily mean that you had to live right on the lake. There's a ton of properties. In fact, the property that we're listing today has an easement for lake access. There's a ton of properties around Lake Oswego that aren't on the lake that have some sort of easement that gives you lake access. Now, you're not gonna be able to put a motorized boat in. So what we're talking about is like a kayak or a paddleboard, you know, some sort of craft like that. If you wanna get into the lake, you can now do so. So for the people that are trying to keep it private, I'm sure it's a con for them. For anybody that wanted to get into the lake that couldn't before, that's gonna be a pro. And I think that it sounds like that's gonna be a battle that's gonna go on for a long time. But as it stands right now, if you wanna get into the lake with like a paddleboard or a kayak or something like that, or just go swimming, there is public lake access to Lake Oswego. So I hope that helped you to maybe learn a little bit about Lake Oswego. Again, you probably already know a lot of the pros. That's why you're watching this video. If you're somebody that's thinking about moving to the area, if you wanna take the next steps, you can call us, text us, email us, or like I've mentioned, you can click the link in the description to schedule a Zoom call with us. And if this video helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure and subscribe. Feel free to comment below. We always respond to comments. And let us know if you have any pros or cons that maybe I didn't mention. Again, the leaf blower one, I didn't even think about until, of course, you know, the leaf blower started blowing up in the background of my video. So I'm sure there's probably a few little other pros or cons out there that I haven't thought of. Feel free to weigh in on the comments on those. Until next time, take care, everyone.